Look, I'm unstoppable. Forget your defense, nothing but an obstacle. Run it back, switch it up, call it audible. Serving up them Hail Marys till the game over with the showstopper. So hot, you gotta blow on it. I said I'll huff and I'll puff, then I'll pass to my left while I'm looking to my right. Hit him right in the chest. It be looking like magic. Better give me the throne. I ain't talking about Patrick, but I rep my home. I'm never at the end of my zone. I'm bad to the bone. Eating up these pig skins like they chicharrones. And you a douche cabron. Mira, mira at the mirror on the wall. I'm the greatest of them all. They gon' put me in the hall. Your name is only written in a bathroom stall. Quit your stalling and make a play. My drive too long. Pop the clutch. I don't pop the brake.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Texans Fan Battle Podcast. I'm one of your amazing duos, Matthew Briggs, and always I got my A1 since day one, Mr. Crenshaw. Say what's up to the folks.
What's the deal? We back.
You know, here the last couple of weeks we've been having everybody that the Texans are playing. Today we have the Chargers representing them. We have Jake the Snake Silva from Snake Sports. What's going on, man?
What's going on, you guys? Absolute pleasure being here tonight.
Thanks for coming on, bro. It's the pleasure is ours. How you liking the off season so far?
Honestly, man, there is an awful lot of high expectations in the off season for the Chargers themselves. We know that there's an awful lot of pressure on this team, despite missing the playoffs 3 straight years so far. But it's been very exciting. I was very surprised at a lot of the moves that they've made during the offseason, but I could not have been happier. But this year, as we definitely dig deep into it, this is definitely a make it or break it year for the Chargers to getting into the playoffs and to officially see Justin Herbert produce in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah, we'll get more to that. Before we do, we'll talk some NFL news. First off, we got to talk about the Kyler Murray contract. The dude got paid. I'll start with you, Jake. You're our guest. What's your thoughts on does he deserve it, or is it out of range for his experience and stats?
My only thing about the Kyler Murray situation, and I literally dug deep into it from stats to, because I'm the type of person that I'm very analytical. Math has always been my biggest thing. When I look at stats, I'm thinking, he's really is producing in the right direction, but I'm also somebody that produces a lot of manalytics. What does he do under pressure, and how does he get the team to where they need to be successful, to making the playoffs, and plus having a winning record during the regular season to make it? Kyler Murray is a very specialty type quarterback. We noticed this with a lot of quarterbacks in the last couple of years now, that I think the NFL has started to move past from the old, and now we're bringing in this new era of quarterbacks. We watched Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, a bunch of them, and we could not be even more satisfied with the level of just the competition that they have, but also what they could literally do on and off script. I think that this was well worth it for Kyler Murray because the fact of, look at Arizona's history. The Arizona Cardinals have been the type of irrelevant team over the years who have produced, by the way, a couple of real good Hall of Fame players, players that we've seen in the past that have had recent successes, but then have moved on into different teams for different contract reasons. But Kyler Murray is exactly that one piece you always want in your franchise. You think of it, you start from the very top, from the ownership to the general manager, head coach, and then to your quarterback. If you know all those pieces are in line and that's what it takes to get your team to the playoffs, let alone win a Super Bowl championship, then you're doing something right. We know that there's speculations with Kyler Murray of the type of player he is, which I've heard like all over on sports talk shows, that he's the kind that he doesn't really spend a whole lot of time on film, which honestly Has Big Ben ever spent time on film? Has Brett Favre ever spent time on film? My thing is, if something works for you on their mechanics, then why would we change it? I know you want to be a smart quarterback to lower down the amount of mistakes, but be very competent enough to think off script and find ways to get your team the leads. I think this is well worth it. And the type of contract for $46 million a year, it's literally the same amount for an entirety of the Oakland A's payroll, who drafted him 9th round in the MLB draft. That's why I'm like, it just tells you a lot about how king the NFL truly is when it comes to moving from one era to another where it's pro offense. So having that quarterback, and with a bunch of weapons that he has, and finally a defense that's capable. Now, the offensive line, I'll question, but it's going to get better. I think the Cardinals will literally be on the right direction for the next 5 years.
Okay. Well, I mean, his stats are good, but come second half, the winning stats, I mean, you can blame that on Kingsbury. He's done that ever since Texas Tech. So I'll throw this to you, Crenshaw. What do you think? You think it was worth it, or they overpaid on this one?
No, it's worth it because when you got your guy, you got to lock him up. I mean, and who else they're going to get that's better than Kyler Murray? He's a good quarterback. You know, he just play off natural talent. That's why he don't watch film. He's like, I don't need to watch film. I can ball. And then he had a bad playoff game, but what quarterbacks have had a bad first playoff game? You could go down the line. Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson, you know, they had bad their first playoff game. I think he's going to get better.
Peyton Manning. I mean,
Peyton Manning. Yeah.
The list goes on and on.
Yeah, the list goes on. I think he's going to be back to MVP caliber this season. I mean, I like him. I mean, he's a dual threat. He's great on fantasy. So, hey, you can't go wrong with it, man. It's a good contract. It's a good contract.
Yeah, he's my top 4. If you know, Lamar, Burrow, and Josh Allen's not there, I gotta go Kyler. So, you know. But before we move on to other things, we got some comments. We got Coach Dante saying, "What's up, Jake in the building?" What's good, Die Hard? This must be your friend you were telling us about.
Yep, that's the one right there.
Coach Dante, make sure you hit us up, bro. We'd love to work with you, man.
Everybody in Spotlight Sports Network just saying what's up.
Yeah, glad to have y'all watching us. Another news, it seems like the rich get richer. The Buccaneers signed Julio Jones to a 1-year, $8 million. It could reach up to $8 million. Chris, I'll start with you. Smart? Is he done? Should we retire? What's your thoughts?
I mean, you can't go wrong. When they picked up AB, people said the same thing, and it worked for him. I love the move. I love the move. I mean, this probably Brady. I'm hoping this is his last season. I don't know. He might come back another year knowing him, but it's a great move. Julio is going to play well with them. I mean, you still got to respect him. I know he's not been the same last couple of years, but you still got to respect him. So that makes Mike Evans better. That makes Chris Godwin better. Tight end better. Fournette's better. That's a great move. I can see them, I don't know about Super Bowl, but at least NFC Championship.
I mean, yeah, and you got to say Tom Brady is a major upgrade from Ryan Tannehill. So, I mean, that can help. Jake, what's your thoughts on it, brother?
I honestly think that if you're going to go out potentially of the last year with Tom Brady, you always want to go out with a bang. And lots and lots of receivers. This is yet again another one that goes on Tom Brady's resume. I mean, you have to think the amount of receivers that he's had over the years. Randy Moss, Julian Edelman, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rob Gronkowski. The list itself just goes on of all the receivers that he's ever played on the same field with. Tom is obviously going to be excited for it, you know, and the fact that there is so much wide receiver depth. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Julio Jones, Russell Gage, and several others. Tampa Bay.
Scotty Miller.
Yeah, Scotty Miller. So there is so
Rudolph,
many options. Yeah. You know, and a lot of that, I think what's kind of funny about this is that we witness this in the NBA sometimes when we see like the people who play with LeBron James. They're either are going to be successful or they may not be the right pieces, but only LeBron himself can make that determination. In the similar way, when it comes to Tom Brady, everybody wants to play with Tom Brady because why? It's an automatic Super Bowl. It's an automatic, championship at that point. But I think this is an interesting move for Tampa Bay. And I know with the NFC getting tougher because of the fact of the Rams are fresh from a Super Bowl and they kept all their guys and they then acquire Allen Robinson. Like the NFC, it's stacking up pretty high. So there, you can't go wrong with something like this.
Yeah, most definitely. We got some comments on there. This one, I never knew Gardner Minshew was a Chargers fan. that one got me. That's from our AFC South sister podcast. Our host Sam, and she also said, "Dear Lord, your humble servant, please let this be Brady's last year." So yeah. Once she said that, I was like, yeah, I had to put that on there.
That was ball game right from there. I was like, oh man, not Gardner Minshew. That is great.
Well, I had a talk with a Colts fan today. He said that he is done. That Julio Jones is done, and I said that he could get at least 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. Is that too much, or is that in the realm of possibility?
That's way too much.
You don't think he can get 1,000 yards with Tom Brady?
If you want my pure honesty about Julio Jones, I'd say plus minus 3 touchdowns and plus minus 600 receiving yards. That's very, very tough because of the fact of you got so many mouths.
So many weapons. Yeah.
I know. That's why Julio's still a threat. If he can stay healthy, I mean, who are you going to guard? Mike Evans, Godwin, Rudolph? I mean, you got to leave somebody open. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, he's like wide receiver 3 over there, though.
I know. He put him on the other half of Evans, put Godwin in the slot.
Or you put Russell, or the hardest thing is Russell Gage in the slot because we watched him several times with the Atlanta Falcons and how dangerous he's been.
All right. I don't think it's the skill or the capability. It's the fact he can't stay healthy is what that hurts him. He hasn't played a full season, 3 years now? So I think if he plays all 17 games, I think he can get 1,000 yards and at least 6 touchdowns. Now the 6 touchdowns might be a little. He's never been a touchdown guy, so that might be a little tough for him.
But I think the 6 touchdowns is more easier than 1,000 yards with Tampa Bay because in the red zone, they could big target.
Yeah, that would be my thought is situational play. And, if you put him up in a situation, even if you're just at a point where you need a first down and you're on a 3rd down situation, we've seen it several times where he's made immaculate catches. So you might even utilize him on those scenarios.
Yeah, or 3rd and long and just, Tom Brady's arm's not the same, so you needed somebody like Julio Jones just jump there and jump ball it. But Julio Jones can't jump ball very good anymore like he used to. So who knows? Well, guys, let's jump into why we're here. We got the Bold Up versus We Are Texans. Jake, you're our guest. So this off season, you lost Ryan Beluga. I mean, that's really the only big key loss for you guys is Beluga, huh? And
I mean, Brian Bulaga was definitely huge.
I always murder his name, man. Beluga, Bulaga.
Nah, you're good. Brian Bulaga, I think in some ways, honestly, Kaiser White was kind of a loss for us because of the fact of he had such an improving season in the linebacking position, but I think most of that was he was a guy that was more of like that rush type linebacker in the defense. I think you can think of him, Bulaga, Uchenna, which I really do hope for best successes for those guys wherever they may be. Because I know Uchenna, it was very, very difficult. After seeing that Khalil Mack trade, I was like, yep, it's gonna basically point out he's not gonna stay with the Chargers, even though they might have hinted a little bit of him wanting to be back. But in the end, after the deal was finalized, he was like, yep, I'm moving on. So those were kind of the 3 losses I think that kind of hit for the Chargers. But in the end, it kind of turned around.
Right, and then you got J.C. Jackson and, like you said earlier, Khalil Mack. Are those what's other than those two? What additional signings are you excited about this offseason?
Well, I am excited for at least a couple of them, and I think one of them is the tight end Gerald Everett. He was a former LA Ram, and he was, one of those tight ends that plugged in. Now, unfortunately, he lost a lot of those battles with Tyler Higbee at the tight end position, but when you needed him at certain scenarios, he was definitely a guy to throw to when the situations got tough. I really do think that the Chargers, since the retirement of Antonio Gates and then moving on from Hunter Henry to Jared Cook, the tight end position has been kind of flat for the Chargers in the last few years. So bringing in Gerald Everett on top of Donald Parham and Trey McKitty, I think is going to really help out with the tight end class because right now tight ends are in certain ways very valuable to an offense. You watch Mark Andrews, you watch Travis Kelce and George Kittle, especially when you're in a division where you have Kelce and you have Darren Waller in the same aspect where you're trying to cover midfield because you don't want to let those guys open. The Chargers are really going to utilize a lot of that for the tight end. The other one that I think was really going to be good that may help to boost the position is linebacker with Kyle Van Noy. I was very surprised they even got him at a cheap price that Telesco even put out there. So because the Raiders were in on him, several other teams were in on him, but bringing in Kyle Van Noy is, I think, going to bring the best of Kenneth Murray. And Murray's on the tail end of his rookie contract, and this is a prove-it year for him because moving up into the draft, taking the 23rd pick from the New England Patriots, you got to hope for for high expectations from there. I compared him to Darius Leonard for one because I thought he was a tackling machine out of Oklahoma and was somebody that could really read onto not just pass rush defense, but maybe somebody that could also convert onto a little bit of some cover defense. So this may be interesting to see in Kyle Van Noy bring his veteran experience, really work with Kenneth Murray a little bit more. A few others, I mean, Bryce Callahan, I think is an interesting wild card, is a guy that barely gives up any big plays with Denver.
Has a lot of potential too.
Yeah, lots and lots of potential. So there's a lot to really be excited about with this newly reshaped defense. And Derwin James, I know early on, he's sitting out because of the fact of the contract situation, but a deal is going to get done. And I think he's more excited of the fact that this defense is fresh and brand new after being ranked 32nd in rush defense. Like, this was a huge, massive change. And the front of it with Sebastian Joseph Day and Austin Johnson, this has never looked better than I've seen in the last few years. But I have to be kind of conscientious of myself because 2010, they had the number one ranked offense and the number one ranked defense, and they missed the playoffs. So I am like, it all looks great on paper, but I'm the kind of a prove it to me kind of thing. Yeah, exactly.
Before we move on, we got a couple more. We got Uncle Rico from K in the building. He predicts Julio to get 650, 5 touchdowns, and then Coach Dante said 600, 4 touchdowns. And what's good, Uncle Gardner Jake? Everybody, we got Gardner Minshew on the podcast, you know?
They're absolutely loving this. Yeah, this is the first time being on camera with this now because I normally would have a beard and all that. But, yeah, Key in the building's real good. She's a big-time Philly fan, loves the Eagles. So there's another Eagles content creator right there.
There you go.
Yeah,
we definitely have to hook up after we beat y'all November 3rd. So, you know. Jake, what I know you probably haven't paid a lot of attention to the Texans all season, but is there anything that catches your eye on what the Texans have done this all season? You know, maybe getting rid of the Predator, you know, maybe the draft. What's your opinion?
Well, I think honestly, you know, I hate to say this, but the fact of with the Houston Texans, because number one, since they've been a franchise in 2002, there's been a lot of hard times with them. And it's trying to figure out the quarterback situation. It's also figuring out a little more of the consistency and stability for the franchise themselves, going from head coaches to people in the general managing office. I've always felt for the Texans in some ways because the city of Houston, they deserve a lot better with it. And they produce great talent. Andre Johnson, Mario Williams, Brian Cushing, J.J. Watt, DeAndre Hopkins. Like, I've seen it all. And even at the time when they had the Matt Schaub era, I think, honestly, the Texans, like, their biggest move is it's clearly a rebuild. But, however, I was feeling a lot for David Culley. I was kind of surprised at the fact that after 1 year head coaching this team, if you've noticed it, last season, they didn't give up on games. They played with heart. They played with determination. And regardless of what the outcomes were, David Culley, from what I was told, he earned the locker room, which is very rare for any other coach to do. If you're the kind that an entire locker room and roster respects you, that's got to say a lot to the people up in the front offices. Like, I wished he would have gotten at least another year to see how this puppy would have played, but unfortunately, you can't ask for everything.
The bad thing with Coley, and maybe Crenshaw can kind of back me up, he was kind of the last ditch effort to keep Watson. He was a Watson guy. They had a lot of exchanges, especially when they both coached at the he coached at the Pro Bowl, and he was, of course, at the Pro Bowl. So that was kind of a last thing with him. Yeah, he was a locker room guy. I give you that. He was. But he also cost us the Browns game, the Patriots game, the Jets game, and the Dolphins game. So that's 4 games we could have won. Because you're right, they didn't give up. But and a lot had to do with Tim Kelly because he's just a horrible play caller. But it's just his lack of experience. Nobody was going to give him a shot as a head coach. I mean, nobody. Let's be honest. Nobody wanted to come to Houston and be the coach at that moment.
Oh yeah, so, it was definitely tough, and I couldn't. I honestly couldn't even imagine it with dealing with the Deshaun Watson deal, the whole you blow up then about the DeAndre Hopkins thing, which I was very surprised of, and then of anybody, J.J. Watt, who was obviously a leader in that clubhouse, that the second he sees it, it's like, we're done. We're absolutely done. And I would rather, at this point, like, he gave his all to Houston. He gave all of just his blood, sweat, and tears. And in the end, it just never – I've always felt for J.J. Watt because I think he's a quality player that would one day smell the Lombardi Trophy. And unfortunately with the outcomes and then the inconsistency from the entirety of the franchise, it made it a lot harder. And that's where I kind of look at it. It's a whole refresh. And I knew the Texans were probably going to end up going with this, with the amount of draft picks that they get back. Drafting the right players, drafting the right on depth as well on certain positions. It's clearly showing that this team wants to be better in some aspects, but it may take a little bit of time for them to really get back into being a caliber team again.
Yeah. You're right in the rebuild. I think we're a little bit closer than what most people think. I mean, I still think we're about 3 or 4 years off, but it is, it is still a rebuild. Before we get into the game predictions and stuff, I'll say to you, Crenshaw, what is your most what is your impression of the Chargers offseason? What was your favorite, just not so favorite? And then we can then we can talk about Davis Mills coming to Los Angeles and putting up a W again on them. Well, go ahead.
Well, it's like it's a make or break a year, because first of all, when you play in LA, you gotta be a winner. If you're not a winner in LA, they're not gonna come. They're not gonna support you, and that's just the way it is out there. I like Justin. I think he's an incredible quarterback. The media's high on him, but he gotta get him to the playoffs. I understand coaching and players, but he's the king. He got to get him to the playoffs. If they don't make the playoffs this year, Jake, I mean, you're gonna get a lot of phone calls, man. You'll get a
Oh,
lot of phone
yeah.
calls, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, but everything you guys did was good. I love the Khalil Mack and J.C. Jackson. That's the only question mark because it seems like when players leave Belichick's system, they're not the same.
Right.
So I don't know if was really that good. Is he really that good, or it was just a system? But damn,
Right.
you got so much talent. I mean, I think he's still gonna be a ball hawk regardless. I mean, your team's stacked, man. I think, in my opinion, you guys are gonna win the division. You're gonna win the division over Kansas City, man. I think Denver's gonna be the last seed. I think it's gonna be you guys, Kansas City, Raiders, and then Denver's gonna be the last seed. I mean, I loved everything about what you guys did because, like you said, the running game was terrible. I mean, it was terrible last year, and you really, got some help on that right there. So, hey, I'm looking at 12-5 with you guys, man.
All right. I got
But
couple
hold on,
comments.
but
Sorry.
the coach can't be doing what he did last year.
Oh,
too.
I know, and and you know what, the coach's pressure. It trust me, I literally said the same thing. Like the coaching pressure is huge because the fact of the matter is they don't make it into the playoffs. The one thing that's going to happen is he's going to end up getting fired. But I'm hearing like sleepy reports that maybe Sean Payton might actually take the job. And I tell you this,
over Dallas.
Over Dallas.
Wow.
Look, here's the thing.
I would. I mean, you got the talent.
Honestly, because when you're taking a Dallas job, you're in Jerry's world.
Right.
And I know that the Cowboys, they improved, but here's the thing. No Cedric Wilson, no Amari Cooper. A lot of those pieces now are starting to pull back. And I don't know what the deal is going to be, but if anything, if you're looking at somebody who's basically got the talent set and you got an amazing quarterback, which by the end of this year, he's going to be getting the bag. And the Chargers are going to want to pay him well for the time he has there. And I've said it, like, he is the one quarterback I do not want to have repetitively with the quarterbacks of Dan Fouts, Phillip Rivers, and all them that just were great quarterbacks and have never won a Super Bowl. Like, that will be the story for like the next 25 years if that comes down to it. So that's why I'm like, yeah, coaching is a big thing. But yeah, I totally agree with you with that. And J.C. Jackson, who knows? I mean, I know he's not a great man-to-man cover guy. He's more of just zone coverages, and maybe that's where it works at best. But I think we'll see a better year from Asante Samuel Jr. I think Michael Davis definitely needs to prove himself with the contract he has. So I think we might see some improvements of some of those covers and man-to-man coverages. But even so, they'll utilize JC somehow, some way.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I got a lot of optimism with them.
All right. Before we get to the game predictions, we got a couple more comments. Speaking of the Miami game, defense forced 5 turnovers. We still lost the game. Tyrod Taylor looked like a shell of himself during the Jets game, and Tim Kelly was garbage play call. I mean, couldn't say it better myself. And I don't know what this guy is talking about.
Come on, Ando.
I mean, he does now, but Prime Houston, he was one of the best players to play the game. But I get it. You're still butthurt him leaving.
Yeah,
that's fine. And Dandy. All right. So Jake, the game is in Los Angeles this year, correct? Because the last game was in Houston.
I believe so. I can check one more time.
I think they come back here.
Is it back in Houston?
I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think they come back here.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at it now while I'm here.
Like I said, I totally dropped the ball for some reason. I thought you were a Broncos fan, so I didn't look at it.
It is in Houston, and that's that's a 10 a.m. game.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, so last year you came in and you were expecting an easy walk to the playoffs, right? Davis Mills came up. Rex Burkhead with that ranked 32 rushing defense, let him walk over 135 yards with 2 touchdowns. Jake, is it going to happen again this year, or is it going to be a different ball game? What's your prediction?
I'm going to tell you right now that we literally have a bad taste in our mouth from what last year literally gave us in that game. Because I said it, I was like, the biggest expectation I've said for the Chargers, and it's funny that Crenshaw mentioned that because I have the same record, 12-5 for this team, with a 13, maybe 14-3 ceiling, but a floor of at least 10-7. Because this team, as much as it looks good on paper, I need them to prove it to me. Because there's no more playing this cute game. Because there were several games that the Chargers lost themselves. The Dallas Cowboy game with that many penalties of undisciplined football, and a couple of others, and including that Texans game itself, because every game in the NFL has to play like it matters. So the Chargers know that that was a bad taste in their mouth, regardless of the players that they had, and they wanted to blame it of, well, COVID. Regardless, you're in a pressurized situation. Figure it out. That's what we're here for. I mean, it's like life. You get hit with a curveball, you got to find a way to adjust. And that's where the Chargers really need to be at, especially in that game. And luckily it being in week 4, because the toughest stretch of the grind is always at the back half of the season. So I think the Chargers, honestly, after the result we got from last season, they're not going to want to play this game easy. They're going to definitely want to get revenge back, and they want to basically put a statement out that we are playing these games hard and we are not missing the playoffs this year. So I think this will be a tough, interesting game itself, because the last few times the Chargers and the Texans have faced off, Chargers have not had any success in the last couple seasons, especially with Davis Mills and with Deshaun Watson. I mean, they came into a soccer stadium and they literally obliterated them. So that's where I'm kind of like, I ain't taking this game easy. So I think this game, you're going to see some defensive plays from both sides, where I think the Texans, as I've said, they've been a team that have been in situations. So you can't take that lightly. But if I had to give a final score, I think the Chargers would walk away with a win 27 to 21 against Houston. I truly think it'll be a 6-point game, but I'm not taking this team easily. And that's where I'm like, you got to execute every play that's there, offensively, defensively, and trust. And the biggest thing, the special teams. You got to trust this special teams is going to literally do all of the right things for them to keep this team in these games.
Before I send you to Crenshaw, yeah, that's I agree with you. It's going to be a tough game. Last year, we got rid of Tim Kelly. Lovie Smith is a defensive-minded guru. I mean, you can say his style is extinct. Nobody uses it no more, but he still is a great coach, great-minded when it comes to defense. And like I said, Pat Hamilton, big upgrade from Tim Kelly. Run the ball better, throw the ball better. So, Crenshaw, to you, what do you see happening? What is the prediction of this game?
And Pep Hamilton was a quarterback whisperer for the Chargers too, so I definitely felt that.
Yeah.
Do you think Pep helped Justin, or Justin was going to be good regardless?
You know what? I honestly think Justin was going to be great regardless. I think it was more of showing a little bit more of the ropes of what the NFL style of play was going to be. And then the rest of it, he was going to basically focus on his own.
He just sped up the process, pretty much is what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're talking about a 4.0 biology major student that he takes care of his body, he studies up, and he just masters his craft year after year. Because trust me, I thought that same thing when it was two coaches, Pep Hamilton and Shane Steichen. Because you could see right now in Philadelphia, like that's not always Nick Sirianni calling the plays. That's Shane Steichen, and I knew what I got with him when the team was ranked 7th in offense. That's where I was like, he knew how to run the playbook. He knew how to make it passer runner friendly. So there was some of that, but I think Pep Hamilton, he really does know his stuff. I give credit to him, especially being strategic and showing these quarterbacks the ropes. That's why I think with Houston, I still would never, ever, ever try to change quarterbacks unless you got something special there. And I think Davis Mills, he's definitely the guy to roll with for now until something really appears. So I think Pep Hamilton's done a great job.
All right, Chris. Also,
Okay. All right. So
what do you got for us?
First week of the season, and it's still new for us, and I feel like the Chargers, they've been a team already. They bring in 90% of the team back. I feel like they're gonna win. I like your score 27-21, but I'm gonna say 27-24. That's going to be the score. So I give us an L on that one right there. But if we win, man, that's huge. Because I mean, they got us predicted to go 0-4 in you guys' division anyway. So that's what they say. They say we're going to go 0-4 in you guys' division. But I feel like you guys are the better team. But you're the better team last year. But they're just one of those. We looking past the Texans game. So this time you ain't going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's where I'm like, I don't think at that point that's going to be easily to pass on. That's going to be one that literally hit us, and we're going to be ready to just storm the field the second weekend out there to Energy Stadium.
Most definitely. And it's earlier in the season, so I mean, those type of games you can't look past. Like you gotta go week by week by week. You can't look at the next game, or that's going to bite you at the end of the season. Jake, we like to do a thing on the show called a bold take. So I want your bold take of the game. It could be Justin Herbert breaks the touchdown record of 8 touchdowns. It could be Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack has 9 sacks. What's your bold take? I mean, you don't have to be crazy like that, but what is your bold take of the Texans versus Chargers game?
I think if I had to come up with a really, really good bold take, because even evaluating on both teams with Chargers and Texans, especially offensively, defensively, I truly think my headliner is going to be charging up the ground and pound game. Because I honestly think Austin Eckler and newly drafted running back from Texas A&M, Isaiah Spiller. I think we're going to literally see a feast in the run game for the Chargers. So I honestly think Austin Eckler is going to be a guy that's going to come up and get at least over probably about 125 yards on the ground and probably end up picking up at least another 125 in the air, but definitely get 2 scores, one be a rush and one be a catching touchdown. And I think Isaiah Spiller, because of the fact that he comes in as a strong, capable number 2 running back that the Chargers have been looking for in the last couple of years, I think we're going to see him in multiple spurts with him on the run. And I think he might be another one that's going to break the 100-yard threshold, because especially when you got somebody that can deal more with the ground and pound situation and someone that's got fresh legs. I mean, the kid's got a strong lower half. That's why when I watched a lot of highlights at Texas A&M, I think the kid's going to be great. I think the kid's going to have a really bright future ahead of him. And it's going to be too much for the Texans defense to really stop. So, and at those points, you're trying to now reconfigure your defense a little bit more, but I think they're going to be completely out of sync. And that's where it's going to cause a lot more of passing situations to now start to be successful. So I think a lot of it has to deal with the run game.
Okay. Chris, I'll shoot to you. What's your bold take of the game?
Steven Nelson, interception and a forced fumble.
Oh,
wow.
All right. I like it. Mine's going to be Jonathan Gennard, 2 sacks and 4 tackles for loss coming off the edge.
You're going to be all in that backfield.
Yes.
That's pretty bold.
Yeah.
I think this is the year Jonathan Gennard puts the stamp on a top edge in the NFL. He's going to be top 15 by the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to stay on the field.
If he does, I mean, he got it. He just got to stay healthy. Mm-hmm. I just don't. Injuries, man, I tell you. Well, Jake, man, thank you for coming on. Before we head out, tell us where we can find all your wonderful
stuff.
Hold on.
I gotta ask Jake something.
All right.
That's good. like in the Texans world, our group chats and everything, they say that as a team, as an organization, we wasted a lot of talent since we've been born the last 20 years. And then I always bring up you guys as a team that wasted a lot of talent. Do you feel the same way?
Honestly, I do in some ways, but it always, because I've said this to a lot of, like, for myself, I've been a Charger fan since I was 7 years old, and I've seen it all throughout. Watching old flashbacks of the Don Coryell years with Charlie Joyner and with Dan Fouts and Kellen Winslow Sr. Like, I mean, there was your missing ring title right there in the 80s. I mean, they had a great offense, they had a great defense, but what ended up happening? Kellen Winslow gets hurt at the worst time possible for the Chargers, and they miss their chances of getting a Super Bowl ring. Now they make it into the Super Bowl only just to get bum rushed by Steve Young and Jerry Rice in that Super Bowl in 29. And so I kind of feel that way, but I think part of that was a lot of the ownership of Dean Spanos. And I'm very, like, I have my mindset on him as far as the type of owner he is. He's not somebody that likes to spend big sometimes. And Charger fans were pissed about that because there were a lot of quality players that were out there on the market. And Tom Telesco is a smart general manager. I think the smartest thing close to, we know how we feel about Howie Roseman at times, but he's only right now in the comfortable seat until something happens in Philadelphia where they got to fix this whole thing again. But even Howie made some smart moves. I think in some ways, New England, they've made some, and at least from early on until here they are now. But
that's because Nick Casario left.
Yeah, exactly. But even the the Kansas City Chiefs at times, they've made it to where, the Chiefs right now, they've been dominating the AFC West, and it's time for the Chargers to really take a stand in that division itself. But we've had a lot of great years. I mean,
you guys went like 10, 12 years just dominating. I mean,
and going 14-2 in 2006 with LT's, like, his record-breaking year.
Only Bill Rivers was on fire.
And everybody was clicking. Sean Merriman, who I got a chance to meet him in person, man, and he's the coolest cat I've ever met. And and then just to lose to the Patriots.
Jackson.
Yeah, Vincent Jackson, Eric Parker, Antonio Gates, Igor Olshansky, Jamal Williams, Quentin Jammer, Anton Kaysen, you name it.
Hardwick.
Nick Hardwick, yeah. Oh yeah. We were such a stack. And even Darren Sproles, it was like we had the little bomb there in the special teams and even at running back, and then having Nate Kading as our one clutch kicker. So there has been times, and it's been very, very frustrating. And I know that that's why I'm like, to me, we've watched this with Dan Fouts in the past. We've watched this with Phillip Rivers in the past, where the Chargers made it to the AFC Championship against New England. And that's where I became a Patriot hater, because one, we lose at a 14-2 season. We lose in the AFC Championship game while they were riding a potential perfect season, which thanks to the Giants for breaking that. And all throughout winning the divisions and just getting past the hump. And then it was to the point where the Chargers make it into the playoffs in 2018. And then they beat Baltimore, which they were very close to beating us. And then we face New England and we get bum rushed. That was one of the biggest parts that I was like, yeah. And that's what made it excruciating. And that's why I'm like, when it comes to New England, I can't wait for the day that we just end up feasting on them.
I'll always live by. There's things that you can always count on. That's death, taxes, and Bill Belichick in the playoffs. Like, you just can't. I mean,
but yeah,
gotta find a way to win.
Oh yeah, but when I look at the Texans' history, I mean, the way that the franchise had gone about, I mean, with the David Carr situation, I mean, it was to a point where the offensive line was not capable of really blocking him at any point, especially when you have a Hall of Fame wide receiver in Andre Johnson. I mean, that's one big hit of that offense that really sparked for Houston over the years. And even the time when they had Matt Schaub, and they made the playoffs several times, but couldn't get past that hump. And I used to love watching how that defense would play with Mario Williams. At times, you had good running backs, especially with Arian Foster, but injury after injury after injury has really plagued on for the Houston Texans. And so I feel the pain. And trust me, if that's just 20 years in, try at least 20 plus. Like that has been that has been our biggest thing is we get so close, but yet no cigar.
Okay. Was you upset with LT for not playing that championship game?
I was in
remember, y'all never got back there again. And they were saying, oh man, they'll be back there again. He never got back there again.
Yeah. I honestly was upset, but here's my thing is LaDainian Tomlinson deserved an opportunity. I wouldn't have been mad because of the fact of we spent great years with him. I know it kind of sucked at the fact that he went to the Jets of all teams, but again, I would always pull for a player that if they win a Super Bowl, great for them. I mean, I'm sure you guys would probably feel the same way if J.J. Watt won one, or if maybe DeAndre Hopkins would win one, or any of that. Because it's in the end, it reminds you, I'm happy of the fact that the situation went great for them, but I wish we could have done better. You know, and that's where that's a spark of fire for any organization to now literally get things clicking and say, what do we need to do to never go through this again? And I think this is why Justin Herbert, this is the time to prove it, because you had two quarterbacks in the past you tried with and failed. And I'll be damned if they failed with Justin Herbert, because this is
Hall of
something
Fame quarterbacks.
Yes, and this is where Charger fans deserve better than this, and you got to make them proud. I mean, the day the Chargers win the Super Bowl, I've said this: we're the Philadelphia Eagles of the AFC West, because we ain't got one, and we're waiting to like we are that close to getting ourselves to it. But if it truly happens, I've got fingers for everybody in the NFL, and only to say, because we've been looked down upon. We've been criticized. We've been doubted, and the demons have finally been exorcised. And that's where I truly think,
that's where we're at with the media. Everywhere you turn on, the Texans are the worst team in NFL in the last 20 years. Like, come on, bro. You still got the Bears. You still got the Jaguars. Like, there's still
you still got the Lions.
Like you still got a lot worse team. You got the Browns. Like you got Jacoby Brissett being the starter of the Cleveland Browns. Like, come on, bro.
Oh my gosh.
Don't sit here and say that the Texans are the worst team in the last 20 years. Because
and just to clarify that if that Super Bowl ends up becoming a victory for the Chargers, it ain't for the city of LA. It's going to be for the city of San Diego. That's what it's literally going to be for.
I feel that. Well, Jake, man, tell us, where can we find your stuff so we can check it out, and where can we find you on social media?
Well, I definitely want to thank the guys here for having me up on here tonight, and also be thanking all of the fans here for checking out the show. But if you guys love sports and you guys love entertainment and you guys love it as a clash of both, then the Snake Sports Talk Show is definitely the place to check out. And we talk everything: NFL, NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball as well. And just talking about the hottest topics that have been coming on every day of every week. You can find me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram. Like, follow, subscribe, and hit the bell button for all latest notification of future and past shows. As of course, the Snake Sports Talk Show is the home play, is basically the place where you can find us on the Spotlight Sports Network, as well as its home, where you can catch me. I know I've been kind of in a hiatus, but I'm planning to get myself back on Monday, Tuesday, and Friday for the Snake Sports Talk Show's comeback. But that's where you'll definitely find me, on those platforms.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. We definitely will check that out. Crenshaw, tell us where we can find you at. Tell these Texan haters where you can find all the good stuff.
You can find me at Fifth Ward Crenshaw on all major platforms.
And you can find me at A1 Day One Texans. You can find the podcast on every single major platform where you can listen to a podcast. And you can also find us everywhere TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. But also make sure you check out our sister podcast, the AFC South Fan Battle. We have Jaguars Hall of Fame receiver Jimmy Smith coming on. And also check out the You Don't Know Jack, the Colts Fan Battle. Even though they suck and Matt Ryan's old as dirt, they have some good stuff sometimes. So, guys, we will see y'all again later. Jake, again, thank you for coming on. Everybody have a wonderful weekend and stay blessed.
Go Texans.
Go